All right, moving right along. In our last video, we created the first step in the responsive website procedure here to create the mobile responsive site. And I didn't mention it, but this is called a media query when you are checking to see if the size is under a certain amount. So that was implementing a media query. And now we can see that it does respond, and we did fix some of the elements that were looking weird. Now what we're going to do is we're going to focus on this top section, because generally for a mobile site, you wouldn't have a nav bar like this. You would have something called a hamburger. That term, hamburger, comes from the fact that mobile menus generally look like a hamburger. They're usually three lines running horizontal. I'll show you what one looks like in a sec. But we're going to set up for that. We're going to start creating what we need for this bar to actually change into that hamburger. And we're also going to start thinking about building a menu that will drop down and will actually appear only when you click on the mobile menu. So we'll look at that as well. But before we can start that, what we're going to do is we're going to jump back over to the index. And we're going to scroll up to the top where we have the nav section. Okay. Now remember, our nav section is what controls this part of the page. That's where the logo is, and that's where the buttons are. You can see them all listed here. If you remember from before, you can see them all here. Here's the logo, and this list is all the buttons. Okay. What we're going to do is we are going to create, inside of the nav that already exists, we're going to create a class. And we're going to call that class desktop nav, which means that this particular nav bar is for, oops, I misspelled desktop, is for when we are on a computer. All right, now there are many ways to do this. This is just the way that I've always done it. What we're going to do is we're going to copy this whole section. So copy that. You can use edit copy, or you can use your shortcuts, Control C or Command C, and we're going to paste it below. And underneath here, we're going to put one called mobile nav. Okay. Oops. I've been misspelling stuff all night tonight. Okay. And so now what we're going to do now what we'll do is we will have two versions of this nav bar, one for mobile and one for desktop. And they're going to look very different from one another. You'll see in a second what we're going to do. We're going to make some big changes to each of them. For this one, in the mobile nav, we want this section with the buttons to actually become a drop down. So we might as well, you know what, I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll worry about it later. But now we've got them both listed as two different classes, two different nav bars. And let me just show you how we can control which one shows at which time. So let's go into the style sheet again. And I just got to keep my mind on what I'm going to do here, how I'm going to hide it. In our media only section, the section where we have created all of this, mobile website section, in here, we're going to put this line right after our hero title. What we're going to do is we're going to put .desktop nav. Okay, so the class that we just created, and I forgot to save my HTML. So you know what? Let's go back and do that, because otherwise it's not going to work. We'll save that. Didn't change anything here. Actually, what happened is it doubled up. There's actually two copies up here now, one on top of each other. You just can't tell. But in here, desktop nav is going to basically disappear. So we're going to say display is none, and visibility is hidden. You need to have both, by the way, because believe it or not, you can have something that is not is hidden or not showing, it's still there though. It's still taking up space. So you have to have both in order for it to completely disappear. And if I save that, we're actually not going to see anything change. Okay? Because, oh, actually it did, we saw this go a little bit lighter. Because what happened is the second copy now disappeared. We've only got one copy here. Just to show you that this is actually working, because I think I don't want to confuse you, is if I was to copy this, okay, let me just copy this chunk here and paste it below and also hide the mobile nav. Okay, let's say I want to hide the mobile nav class as well and save that. Now our nav bar disappears completely because what we're telling it is when it gets under 600, both nav bars disappear. All right, and as soon as we get over 600, boom, that one pops back, okay? So you can see that it's responding the way it's supposed to. All right, so we know that this is working. All right. What we also want to do is in our block up here above the animation section is we want to tell it that the mobile nav has to disappear. Okay, so what we're doing here, it's like a switch, right? When it's over, 600, the mobile one disappears. When it's above 600, the desktop one appears and the mobile one disappears. Okay, so it's like a switch. You don't see it happen. It happens instantly, but this is how you do it. Okay, cool. So now we've got both of them disappearing and reappearing. I'm going to leave this in here just so you can see that's actually doing what it's supposed to be doing, but this one obviously has to be up here in order for that. Whoops, I went too high. This one has to be up here because at the normal size, you don't want to have the mobile menu showing. Okay, so again, we scale this up and down and you can see that it's disappearing because that's what we told it to do. All right, now we can start customizing the mobile menu and making it look like something that you probably recognize from when you're surfing on your phone and you happen to hit a mobile site. I'm going to show you what a hamburger looks like. So in the that's not it. That's the videos. In the folder for our website that we're working on here, let me just get it here. You're going to see that there is a hamburger inside of that folder. All right, this is what it looks like. These are the 3 lines I'm talking about. What we're going to do is we're going to insert that hamburger up in the top right corner. We're going to keep the nav bar there without the buttons, and we're going to have that there. And then when people click on it, we're going to have a menu drop down so that they can select wherever they want to go. This makes for a much easier, much better system for navigating websites on the phone. This has been around for a very long time. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to have to go back and customize how our menu is set up. All right, in order for this to work, we need to set up the menu a certain way so that everything is going to sort of fall in place when we want it to. All right, so let's go back to our index now. I'm sorry I have to jump all over the place, but this is just the way it has to be. So the first thing we can change is the fact that this list, which is inside of the mobile nav, this list, which is what's going to happen when we switch to that mobile menu, is going to have a class called dropdown. Because like I said, we want this section to actually drop down when people click that hamburger. Okay? We also want to actually get the hamburger to show up at the top because that's important. Okay, so to do that, we're going to create a section here above the logo and above the mobile nav, just right up here. We're going to create a div and we're going to give it a class name of hamburger. Okay. And we're going to kind of review what we already know. In that, we're going to make an image tag. The source will be images. Whoops, images, slash burger menu dot svg, and we're just going to close that off. And I don't think that's going to work because I don't think I copied it over just yet. So if I save that, no, it's got a question mark, so you can see it didn't work. So I'm going to just copy this burger menu file over to my folder because I'm working on two folders here. One that has it finished and one that I'm working on right now. And there it is. Now you see it appears instantly. Okay, but it's gigantic. It is huge, pushes everything down, basically destroys the site. So what we're going to do is we are going to build that burger so that it looks proper and it displays correctly in the corner where we want it. Okay, so let's do that. Going back to the style .css, we are going to bring back the mobile nav. So let's actually get rid of this at the very bottom of your CSS. That will bring the bar back. Oh, you know what? There's one thing I forgot. We need to tell it to come back. And what I mean by that is it won't come back by itself. We have to actually tell it to come back. So here's what you got to put. Mobile nav. Remember up here when we were hiding the desktop nav, we put display none? Well, if we want this to come back, we got to put display block. It has to come back. And our visibility has to change to visible instead of none, or instead of hidden, sorry. We save that, now it'll come back. Very important, I forgot to mention that. And actually what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to have the desktop nav up here come back as well. Okay, so the desktop nav has to be told to come back, because if it doesn't know, if it's been set to hidden, it won't bring it back automatically. So we're going to put that in there. We're going to say block again here. And instead of hidden, we're going to say visible. Okay, and that's that switch, right? When it goes bigger than 600, the mobile nav turns off and the desktop shows. And then down here, the desktop turns off and the mobile shows. So that should all work. And if I scale, it should work. I just want to make sure. We've got this big block, but I'll show you, we're going to fix that in a second too. That's because the hamburger is still there. We're going to fix that, don't worry. Okay, let's focus on that. So now we've got in our index, we have a class for hamburger. And like I said, the hamburger is going to sit up in the top right corner. We want it to be clickable when people go up there to hit it or whatever, to actually access it. One thing I want to just maybe comment out, because it's going to look confusing while we're doing this, is let's just comment out the buttons on the mobile nav. We'll get to them later. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put a comment. Oops, I'm in the HTML side of things. So for HTML, I think I showed this. It's kind of goofy. You could delete these if you want temporarily and bring them back later. But here's how you do a comment. It's a less than, exclamation mark, dash dash, like that. And then you take this little ending, or you can actually just delete the last two dashes and the greater than symbol. And I'm just going to put that after here. I'm going to put dash dash greater than, and that will create a comment in the HTML. I don't know if I've shown that before, I can't remember, but that's how that looks. Okay, so it's a little confusing, I apologize. Again, I didn't make HTML, this is just the way it is. So less than, exclamation mark, dash dash, or hyphen hyphen, and then after, wherever you want it to close off, you put dash dash greater than, and that will comment out that section. If I save, you'll see now that the buttons disappear, which is make it easier for us to work with for now. We'll come back to taking this out and working on it after. So we're going to go to style, and we're going to go in here, and we're going to get that hamburger position in the top right corner where we want it. And I think once we've got that, we're probably going to end this video and we'll finish this whole thing in the next. So let's do that now. We are going to focus on the burger class. First of all, we're going to have it display as a block because, again, we want it to be visible when it's in mobile. We might as well already put the visibility to visible. You can probably already predict what we're going to do in the desktop up further. We're going to make it none and hidden. We'll do that after. But now we're going to actually style this button so it sits up in the corner and it looks decent. So first thing we want to do is we want to set the position to fixed. And if you remember this from before, a fixed position means that it's going to stay locked in position. If I save, and you'll see what I'm talking about, didn't change, unfortunately. I guess it's locked in that spot. But what we want to do is we want to put top 0. We'll put right 0. We'll put let's just see what that looks like. Didn't move yet. We got to change a couple other things. We're going to do the width of that to about 50 pixels. Set the height to 50 pixels. And the reason I'm doing 50 is because that was the size of the bar at the top. Okay. We're not seeing anything happen here. Nothing is changing. So we're going to have to look at what's going on here. For some reason, the burger isn't changing size. Margin auto. We'll make sure. Actually, let's not do that just yet. Let's just save. I'm wondering why our burger is not changing size. It should have changed. Let me just see if I missed something here. Oh, here I called it hamburger. Jeez, I'm really off tonight. Sorry, guys. It's got to be burger. Burger. Now it's all working. Now you can just barely see those. Actually, you can't even see the lines. The reason those lines are not showing, I'm sorry, guys. I'm probably confusing you. But burger. And then this always has to match. I put hamburger. The lines are there. But if you remember from the old video, we have to set the Z index, which controls how high up the burger is going to be. And if you remember, I think our nav bar is set to 1, which means if we set this to 2, yeah, those lines are going to come back in front of it. Remember, 0 is like ground level. Think of it as layers. 0 is the lowest layer, 1 is higher, 2, and so on and so forth. So if you want something to come in front of something, you always set your Z index to a higher number and it'll come out from behind whatever it's sitting behind. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, but now you can see we got the burger in the corner. Problem with this is that if we enlarge it to the desktop view, oh, it disappeared. That's interesting because we didn't tell it to. Maybe if I refresh, it'll be there. Oh, yeah, it is there. It's huge, but it is there. So that's because these settings are only set for mobile. So what we need to do, guys, is up here, we're going to do a .burger. I almost typed hamburger. I almost made the mistake again. We're going to set display to none. And we're going to set visibility to hidden. So what that'll do is generally when the site is in desktop view, it'll be hidden, and not until we get into that, under 600 that it shows and it takes on all these attributes that we put in. So if we save, we won't see any changes here, but if we make it bigger, yeah, everything fixes itself. Okay. So that is the first step to making this nav menu, also known as a hamburger menu. And next what we're going to do is we're going to actually make the menu respond and have the drop down come down. And then I think we're pretty much done with this site. We have all the elements that we need for the site. So we're getting very close. All right. So stay tuned for that.